Party people, welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football Podcast, episode 40. My goodness, can't believe we've been around for this long. I'm your host again, Fabio. I'm joined by Raj and Nacc. Week 9 is officially in the books. D-Hop reminded everyone who he is, and he kept the KC train rolling over the Bucks to remain undefeated, albeit in OT. Still, a win is a win. As usual, on our Tuesday episode, we'll be breaking down some key takeaways from Monday night, dive into our super popular love-hate for Week 10, and don't worry, we'll touch on how we did in Week 9, love-hate, to keep us all accountable. Last thing we want is our fans going Jason Kelsey on us. Please be sure to check out our Monday episode where we went over our winners and losers from Week 9. We dove into waiver wire and fab players, and we also gave you some potential trade targets as the fantasy season is getting older. We're getting into week 10 already. It's a blink of an eye, and here we are already so quickly. My goodness. But before we begin, ladies and gentlemen, please like, follow, and share on all of our social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Download and listen to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And please ask us questions, especially right now. Love, hate, lineups, trades, all that stuff. We're always active. We're always available to respond with any of your lineup questions. Don't be shy. Send us a DM, comment on our post. It's a lot of fun. And also a quick shout out to League Champ. It's an easy to use tool that enables users to turn their player takes into rankings and projections. With an in-depth analytics, injury analysis, and weekly floor and ceiling ranks, you'll never miss a beat in this fantasy season. So download League Champ today from the App Store or on Google Play. Also, check out their podcast. It's also available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Guys, today was the trade deadline in the NFL regular season. And like Gary Bettman would say, we have some trades to announce. Let's dive deep and quickly into some trades that happened today in the NFL that might not necessarily have any fantasy impact, but I think from a broader NFL perspective, a lot of teams really beefed up for their potential playoff run. So we got Zadarius Smith, who went to the Lions. So they beefed up their defense right there. The next one's huge. I can't believe this is very happy. Cornerback Marshawn Lattimore to the Commanders, and what the Commanders are doing, man, what they're doing. The Redskins. What they're doing right now, like that is making, like when you're turning an organization into a destination for a lot of players, that's exciting stuff. Mike, did you want to say something?
No, I just said that was huge, and it's first year owner. Talk about buying the team and starting off on the right foot.
Yeah, apparently you don't need 5 years to turn a franchise around. Wide receiver Mike Williams to the Steelers. This is interesting. I like this. This is a deep threat for Russell Wilson. I think it's going to open up the field.
Is it? It seems like
that's what he's supposed to be.
Feels like there's a redundancy, because he's just going to be a deep threat guy. Like he doesn't really run routes. Like I would have thought they would have tried to get someone who maybe complements George Pickens a little better. No, Nacc?
I would have preferred a Hopkins for a 5th round pick. It was they went for the same amount. I know Hopkins could turn into a 4th, but look, they were apparently about to pull the trigger and almost had Christian Kirk. I would have definitely preferred Christian Kirk over
that's exactly what I'm saying.
Over Mike Williams. And I think they overpaid just because like he was the last guy left. I still think this opens up things for Pickens because there's an actual threat on the other side of the ball. 6'4", 218, so like he's gonna make those contested catches, and if Russell Wilson's still throwing that moon ball the way he is, like he makes, I think they were saying 90% of his contested catches. So it could be a good fit.
He plays 10% of his games.
Yeah, I mean, look, 100%. He's a liability for sure. Again, it wasn't my first choice. Yeah. Definitely wasn't. I definitely preferred other names that were thrown out there. But look, this is a rental for a guy that they had interest for in the offseason. He was actually scheduled to visit there, and then when he went to the Jets, he just signed there. So I don't love it, but I don't hate it.
I think this is a minor boost to the value of Russell Wilson rest of season, just because it's another proper target for him in that offense. And at the very least, he's going to be able to take away some coverage from Pickens and open up the field a little bit at the very least, depending on how they use him. So I don't hate this at all. Stick on the Steelers. They also picked up Preston Smith to bulk up that defense that's already very scary. So if you're holding the Steelers defense in your fantasy lineup, you're a little bit happier today. A big move. This is a big one, guys. Cowboys traded for Jonathan Mingo.
That was so strange.
I don't mind.
So
Listen, I don't mind. I don't mind the trade because he is a young wide receiver, and you could assume that maybe there is something there. What I do mind is the fact that he went for the same price as other wide receivers that are that are better than him. That we just saw like Devontae Adams and D Hop and all that stuff. Like that to me was like
he's got 2 years left on a rookie deal, so the price is the price. I don't think I have an argument on the price. He was a second round pick. It's more you've now traded 2 4th-round picks in back-to-back years for Mingo and Trey Lance. Like that's not good business. I don't care what team you are. That's not great business. I mean, now you're gonna start Cooper Rush too. Like,
well, the Cooper Rush thing isn't by choice, right?
I don't mind taking a flyer on Lance because
but you got to play him.
Quarterback.
No.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah, no, for sure.
That's what I think I think it depends on what happens with Dak. If they get to a point where he's out longer than he is reported to be, and the season is in the dumps, then you play Lance. The thing with Mingo is just he hasn't done anything.
No,
like he's in the Panthers wide receiver room that even before Deontay Johnson, like it hasn't been very impressive. And the fact that he hasn't been able to really get on the field is a bit concerning.
Yeah, and look, 2 rookies came in this year and they traded him out without any hesitation. Right? They got Coker and they got Leggett there, and they no hesitation in saying, Mingo, we've a year and a half with you. We don't want you anymore.
Yeah, just not the type of player I feel that is needed with the Cowboys as well. Like
they needed draft capital, man. They needed more draft capital to draft and have less money on the cap. Like I don't know what they're doing over there.
Mm-hmm. Jerry Jones. Some other trade news: running back Khalil Herbert from Chicago to the Bengals. The Bengals obviously needed some RB help after Zach Moss is out for the season. I think it's all but confirmed.
Yes. Yeah. So at least they said at least the regular season. I guess there's a chance for the playoffs. That's what I read. Their excerpt said at least the regular season. Yeah. But for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, I mean, this obviously does put a little bit of a hiccup for Chase Brown if you're a Chase Brown owner. I mean, you have to assume that he will eat into the running back carries at some degree. They didn't bring him in there just to sit on the bench, so that's going to be a bit of a concern. I mean, ultimately, I'm not overly concerned about Chase Brown losing his bell cow ability because I think that's pretty much been confirmed now. Like the guy can tote the rock. But, you probably, if you're a Chase Brown owner, I don't think you're very happy with this trade at the same time, but I wouldn't be too frustrated, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they need a backup, right?
They need a backup.
Herbert is a very capable player. I've always liked him a lot. So
yes. Yeah.
I'm curious to see how he does there versus how they didn't use him properly in Chicago.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and Chicago had a crowded RB room anyways. So just
and they still don't use them properly.
Hey, man. Swift is swiftly still RB1 right now.
My God, that joke again.
This was a very smart move, though. Tre'Davious White from, I think it was from the Rams to the Ravens. The Ravens really needed some secondary help, and they finally got it. So now it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to be putting that cornerback room together, and maybe might not be as fantasy friendly of a defense when it comes to quarterbacks and wide receivers as we would initially thought them to be, especially for the rest of the season. So
he's lost a step, though.
Yeah, still, he's gotten beat a ton this year. He's gotten beat a ton this year. His PFF coverage rating is 49 this year with the Rams. He was at 79 in Buffalo.
Yeah, so he has not had a good year at all.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see it.
I think it's more of a depth move than anything, just to kind of have that another guy, because I don't know. He used to be really good, and it's just it hasn't been him.
He was really good in Buffalo. So those are the major trades that we wanted to bring to everybody's attention, but still keep an eye out. Now we're going to move into our key takeaways for Monday Night Football. So, Nacc, we're going to kick it off with you. What's your takeaway from last night?
Yeah, key takeaway for me is going to be Todd Bowles not going for two at the end of the game when they scored that touchdown. They marched all the way down the field, a 2-minute drill versus a great KC defense, and scored a touchdown. They had all the momentum, and then Bowles also made a mistake calling a timeout there with like 33 seconds left. They had so much time. So they even kept time on the board for Mahomes to potentially come back and win it in regulation. They also had three timeouts, KC. So it was a weird move. And look, at 4-4, depleted offense on the road, like why not go for the win? Like what did you have to really lose there? He chose to go for the tie and then rely on a coin toss to try to win it in overtime. So again, defensive coaching mentality, you know, a McVay, Shanahan, a Reed, like these are coaches that play to win and not to lose. So just kind of weird situation. And the result, look, the Bucks lost the coin toss. Mahomes and co do what they do in high pressure situations, march down the field, score the game-winning TD, and now the Bucks are 4-5 after a devastating loss that could have easily been a win. On the road at Arrowhead, man, like you gotta.
Yep.
I feel like you had to do it. 4-4.
Do,
Your
do you,
divisions is like, you know,
so
Well,
so
now they lost ground in that division.
yeah.
if does it change Nacc if let's say there was going to be like zeros on the board or there was like 2 seconds left, because the thinking behind it, I think there was like 20 seconds or 30 seconds
Yeah, but
left.
that
Either
but
way,
that's
Mahomes would have gotten the ball back anyways. I think that's like the only thing that maybe saves
but that's
Todd
what I'm
Bowles. And
saying. That's
like
what
he
I'm
would have,
that's
Mahomes would have gotten the ball anyway, and like 20 seconds is
but
more than enough for Mahomes.
But that was my point on why they had called that timeout when they had gotten it was first and goal from wherever the heck it was before they scored, I think the two. And they called the timeout with 33 seconds left where they had a boatload of time to just wind the clock, run the play, score the touchdown, and then go for two, and you would have had nothing. Still, 33 seconds. They either way, they're giving it back to him, right? So either way, they needed a field goal regardless, right? At least at this point, you know you're winning. You know what you have to do. You could play tighter. You could play for, hey, they need 40 yards for a field goal. Like they know what they have to do on defense, and you're a defensive coach, so you know how to do it. I don't know. It just struck me as strange for a team like that on the road against the KC unbeaten KC team. Like what a statement that would have been to come out of there with a win on Monday night on the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, historically, Todd Bowles has always been a very conservative coach.
Defensive. It just
Yep.
all defensive coaches are the same. They play not to lose, which
Yep.
is it's I hate it. Tomlin does the same thing. Drives
But
me
also,
crazy.
like, I mean, I hate it when games are decided by a coin flip in OT. Like,
That's
I've
another thing.
never,
Why can't they
I've
just be the
never
same
liked
rules?
the overtime rules. I've never liked the fact that it's not just a sudden death, 15-minute quarter. Doesn't matter who starts. Everyone gets the ball. It's an extra quarter, and at the end, whoever wins wins. I never understood why it can't just be simply like that versus coin flip, and they score a touchdown, the game's over. But if you score a field goal, the other team can respond. Like it's so stupid. Like it's
I don't know
so
why they have
I
different
I
rules for
think they want to.
playoffs and
I
regular
think they want to
season.
keep.
also that too.
I think there's a length of game thing
Yeah,
there.
they don't
Like
want to play another whole 15 minutes like if they
yeah,
don't have to. That's obviously
I wouldn't be surprised.
a
There's
thing
that's
for
like a
sure.
competition committee, like union thing as well. But
Yeah, well, that's the only logical explanation to it. But already the overtime is I think 10 minutes versus 15, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So just play the whole 10 minutes. I don't get it. Anyways, it's gonna bother me until they change it, quite frankly. And you always hear it. It's just a coin flip, and that dictates literally which team can score first and win the game. And it's completely by luck, and it's all by chance.
Look, the defense you still have to stop them. Like it's still a football game. Like you still have to whatever, but I know. I agree. I think both teams should be able to possess the ball regardless.
Raj, who's your winner? Sorry, not a winner. Excuse me. What's your key takeaway from last night?
yeah, key takeaway for me is DeAndre Hopkins will be a WR1 for the rest of the season. He had 9 targets, 8 catches, 88 yards, 2 touchdowns. And let me take you through the DeAndre Hopkins experience. Why don't you? Crazy boundary catch for his first TD of the game. Deep catch when triple teamed, mossing 3 defenders. He won in the short, intermediate, and deep levels. That's DeAndre Hopkins football in a nutshell. somehow the league let the Chiefs. I don't know how they let the Chiefs get Hopkins for what was it,
That's the more frustrating part.
Fourth or fifth rounder, virtually nothing. And to me, like I really feel he's different than any wide receiver that Mahomes has ever had in his tenure with the Chiefs. Like
100%,
like a legitimate, like dominant X ball winner who
And
can go over guys.
how motivating does he look?
Yeah, he looks
with a
yeah,
QB.
man. Like,
Oh,
Like
my
sure.
the
God,
juice
like,
that he showed last night was unreal with an actual QB.
Like, I think he was interviewing Laura Rutledge of ESPN, and like someone said he was like literally crying because he just like he's never worked with a QB this, like, even with Kyler, like, didn't look that good.
Kyler was hurt most of the time.
Kyler was hurt. And yeah, so a few stats. We lined up in the slot 45% of the time versus the Bucks. Only 22% of the time in his 6 games with Tennessee. 2.46 yards per route run versus the Bucks versus only 1.62 with Tennessee. 25% target rate and 7 first downs in his first 2 games with KC. He had 10 in 6 with Tennessee. So the rest of the season schedule is not easy. He gets Denver next week, Buffalo in week 12, the Chargers in week 14, and they end the season with Pittsburgh and Denver. But I mean, guys, I think we would all agree there's no coach we would have more trust in Andy Reid deploying a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, making it easy for Mahomes to have success in the passing game. So
you just
for
said
me,
it.
it's
keep him in the slot.
Yeah, at his age,
you'll get mismatches, right?
Yeah, 100%. Guys, just quick thing. There was a lot of talk during the broadcast, a lot of talk on Twitter about DeAndre Hopkins being a Hall of Famer. I'm like, he's like Hall of Very Good for me. I don't know what you guys think.
I have to do a deep dive into his stats to see, but I would agree right off the top of my head, he is a Hall of Very Good, but I have to look at how many all pros and all that stuff, and because I don't know that without having that information in front of me, but yeah, he would be a Hall of Very Good. Hey, if he wins the Super Bowl this year, the conversation just got a lot different.
I don't like judging by Super Bowls.
I know you don't.
I think you know my stance on that. But
he has three first team. Sorry, no, he has 3 first team All Pros.
Yeah,
for 3 first team All Pros, 12,643 yards, 953 catches.
He's a Hall of Famer, man.
He's not fair. Yeah, he's not far. Actually.
And he's done it with what? With all scrap QBs. Imagine he had a Mahomes for 10 years of his career.
Yeah, who was this QB in Houston? Was it Matt
Schaub?
Oh yeah, that's brutal, man. Yeah.
Guys, who are we talking about here?
Yeah.
Okay, so hold on a second. This is a great example. So right now, his career is what it is right now. If it ends today, is he in the Hall of Fame?
Yes.
Yeah?
Without a doubt.
Well, no, it's just because it's not fair. It's not fair to the Reggie Wayne. Did Reggie Wayne make it? Is Reggie Wayne still? Torrey Holt is still waiting. Torrey Holt should not be. Torrey Holt should not be waiting. Jimmy Smith, I'm going back a bit, but Jimmy Smith with the Jaguars, I don't think should be waiting. I think Reggie Wayne is still waiting as well.
Hines Ward is still waiting.
Hines Ward, no.
No, I don't think he's going.
I love Hines Ward. He was a great
player. That was a joke.
Like
that was a joke.
Yeah.
That was a joke.
We should have an episode on like Hall of Very Good versus Hall of Fame at some point.
I agree.
I like that idea.
I agree. Yeah, no, but DeAndre Hopkins, wide receiver 1 for the rest of the season. Yeah, easily. My takeaway from Monday night is that Baker's going to be fine for the rest of the season. I was concerned, to be honest with you, after he lost Mike Evans and he lost Chris Godwin. And to be honest with you, I was looking at this game as a litmus test to see if Baker can still be a QB1, and I think he can. Maybe low end, but I think basically he's still going to be a lineup lock after beating his projections and finishing as QB 16 versus a tough KC defense. You're like, oh, fab, QB 16. The difference between QB 12 and QB 16 was like 1.5 points. Like, it wasn't a huge difference, right? Baker scored 20. Herbert, who finished as QB 12, finished with 21.48 points. So splitting hairs here, obviously, but basically you can put him in the lineup every single week.
21.5.
He extends his multiple TD streak to 6 games, over 200 passing yards since week 4, at least 20 rushing yards in 4 of his last 5 games. So you also have that floor that you could work with as well. He's getting it done with a bunch of preseason players right now, quite frankly. Apart from Kate Otten, there's no real name out there. It's a mishmash of wide receivers, and even Jalen McMillan also got hurt as well throughout the game, something that we were high on too,
He didn't
like
play,
right after
no?
the injuries
I thought he
happened.
didn't play.
So I'm sorry?
Did he not play? I don't think he played, did he? I thought
He
was
didn't play.
out.
No, he didn't play. So he was void of quite a bit of talent. I mean, Mike Evans will be back after the bye. He does draw a tough matchup this week versus San Francisco, so I can understand if you have a little bit of caution towards that. But you got to give credit where credit is due. Baker is a legit NFL and fantasy QB. And you can tell like the offensive coordinator is really working magic on the field, and it shows.
I think they're gonna let go of Todd Bowles because they're gonna be worried about losing Liam Cohen because of how good of a job he's done this year.
I can see that happening.
Yeah, like he's done a really good job, and like
Baker's
looked as good as he did last year with Canales.
I think he's on pace to beat last year's statistics so far. And last year's, we were like, I remember the beginning of the season, we're like, okay, is that Baker's ceiling? We're not going to see him necessarily do better. And he is doing better for all accounts right now. So the schedule does get a little bit easier too towards the end of the season. Anyways, yeah, it's like for me, this was a big indication to see what type of player he's going to be for the rest of the season. So I wouldn't be concerned if I have Baker on my team.
And Fab, what is a litmus test?
A litmus test is like a baseline test. Yeah.
You really painted a picture for me there.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Yeah. Thanks. Basically to establish like, okay, where are we at really? You know? And it's like, is he really a QB1? Yeah, he's a QB1. We could, by all accounts, maybe low end, but you can say top 12 for the rest of the season.
A test for acidity or alkalinity using litmus.
Moving right along, guys. Thank you very much. So that was our Monday night takeaways. We had a heading here for injuries, but I don't think there has been any injuries since last night. Well, actually, Pat Mahomes apparently rolled up his ankle. You guys saw that? He still played the rest of the game. I'm not really concerned about it. The guy plays hurt all the time, but there was a very collective at that point when you saw him right after he threw that touchdown.
It didn't look good.
No, it did not look good. It's as if his heel got planted in the grass and everything else moved, but he didn't.
But then the Twitter doctors all started, oh my God, the Achilles, was it his Achilles? Is it his ACL?
I think he was fine the entire time.
Yeah,
I think he was fine. He was milking it.
Plus, he's played through like turf toe. He's played through some pretty big injuries throughout his career. So it's going to take a leg amputation for him not to take the field, to be quite honest with you. PSA for buys this week. So week 10 buys, we got the Browns, Packers, Raiders, and Seahawks all on bye. So you will have to adjust your lineups accordingly because quite a few marquee players in there. But we're also going to dive quickly into our week 9 love-hate record. So collectively, we finished 6-5-1, which is an improvement of last week where we finished 5-6-1. I went 2-2. I got a win for Garrett Wilson. I got a loss on Drake London for my loves. I got a loss on Tua for my hates. He put up 19.5 points and actually played really well against the Bills. And I got a win for Kyler Murray, who had a very tough game versus the Chicago Bears. Nacc went 3-1. Jacoby Myers, big win, 18.5 points. DeAndre Hopkins, big win, 28.6 points. Zay Flowers, big loss, 29.7 points. We got roasted in the comments on that one.
Man, did I get roasted.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. It's okay. We own our losses just like we own our wins. And Rashad White, 12.5 fantasy points, put that down as a win. He did have he had a decent game, but not as big of a game as we expected him to have.
I think he had 4 or 5 touches. It was awful.
Yeah. No, he that touchdown saved him for sure. In my opinion, the big win this week, though, was Roger calling for Taysom Hill. 16 points. Good for you, Roger. That was a
Thanks
great
for
call.
that, Roger.
Yeah, exactly.
I played him versus you. I took your advice and it cooked you.
Oh my goodness. The irony is so strong. Joe Flacco lost only 4 fantasy points, had a tough game versus Minnesota. Trevor Lawrence lost again. Trevor Lawrence is quietly putting up
that
pretty
one hurt.
Decent last 3 weeks, man.
That one hurt because he was so bad. He was so bad. Like two BS.
He had 2 rushing touchdowns, right?
Yeah. You know what it reminded me of? You know what it reminded me of? Blake Bortles.
Yeah.
He boiled his way to 20 fantasy points.
Yeah.
And Amari Cooper push because he was injured and did not play, so we're not going to count that one for you. So collectively,
good for you, Fab. I thought you were going to put a push on London.
No, well, he played.
Yeah, exactly.
Like he played, and he got a touchdown. And like if he would have gotten injured and had 20 points, it would have been a win for me.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So you played, you got 10 points. It's a loss. You know, we gotta keep ourselves accountable and fair, guys. Yeah, Mari Cooper got injured. Well, I got injured. Sorry, it was announced after we had him as a hate, but
it's the second week in a row. I choose a hate. I choose a player, and they
inactive last minute.
Yeah, it'd be nice if you pick players that play. So, but on that note, Rod, we're actually going to start off with.
Oh, this is probably going to be.
There could be two.
This is a close one.
There could be two.
Honestly, yeah, the next one too. It's actually both of them technically, if you think about it. Yes. One, who knows? One might be suspended again, and the other one. Anyways, Raj, take it away with your first with your loves for the week. Go ahead.
I shall take it away with Jauan Jennings as my first love this week versus the repeat offenders, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It feels like we're picking on them all the time. But the last time Jennings played, when one of either Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk was out, he played 85% of the snaps, had 11 catches, 175 yards, and 3 TDs. He is slated to return from injury this week, and Ayuk is out for the rest of the year. And best of all, he gets a prime matchup against the Buccaneers, who feature the worst passing defense against receivers and quarterbacks, be it during the season or the last 2 weeks. And we obviously just saw what Mahomes and DeAndre Hopkins did to the Bucs defense. And I think Jennings will be in a prime spot to be deployed in a similar fashion the way Hopkins was, either in the slot or out wide. So I would fire him up against a reeling secondary.
Can't argue with that.
Would you put him in as like a wide receiver 3 or 2 spot? Are you that confident about him? Asking for a friend.
Yeah, like it's either him or Deebo.
Like completely healthy?
It said that he was improving from the pneumonia.
Good point.
He was improving from the pneumonia, but I'd be going off again based off what Jennings did when Deebo or Ayuk. I believe it was Deebo that was out that game, and Ayuk was playing against the Rams. That's where he had the big game, and he's gonna play. He's gonna play like legit number of snaps. There's Pearsall as well too, but I still think he's gonna come along slowly.
There's Kittle there too that you have to worry
Kittle
about.
There
right?
too.
Kittle,
yeah, Kittle,
leading that offense
for sure. But they need a big down the field wide receiver to play the Ayuk role. And there's no one who plays that role better than Jennings currently on the roster, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Dude, looking at Deebo Samuel's injuries this year, and it's like oblique, rib, pneumonia. Like the guy has every possible injury that you can possibly get.
I can't do it with him. I told you guys. I told you guys.
Last year in San Fran.
He is a guy I will never draft. Like the ride with him is just there's no ride that's worse.
It's frustrating.
In fantasy.
It's very frustrating for sure.
Yeah.
Hopefully your second love isn't as frustrating.
My second love this week is a guy who just came off suspension, and he's being I think he's the police are looking after him because of an incident in Detroit.
Yeah.
Either way, I love my boy Jameson Williams at Houston. So I'm pumped for Jameson Williams season to be back. I've missed the weekly throw ride of either 30-point games or 1-point games. But alas, in the 3-game stretch before his suspension, Jared Goff was averaging 13 yards per attempt. In the 2 games Jameson Williams missed, that dropped to 6 yards per attempt. Meanwhile, the Texans have been very generous to wide receivers lately, giving up the 8th most fantasy points to the position over the past 2 weeks, including 181 yards and 3 scores to the Jets secondary just in the second half of last week. Motor City Dan Campbell seems to be fired up to get Williams rolling, saying he's been in the facility, he's been training, he's been in meetings, and he's ready to go. So with the Lions leaning on the run game recently, I think Williams could be a key to bringing back that explosive playmaking. And I'm going to call 3 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown against Houston. That's Jameson Williams football, baby.
I can't trust this. He's just too volatile of a fantasy player. Like you said, he's 30 points or 1.5, so you just gotta count. Hopefully you're right, and this is the week that you cash in on him.
You know what, Nacc? I find that the Lions are just like they purposely scheme guys like to prove a point. I feel they're that type of team where it's like,
James Williams
back.
Definitely cocky.
Yeah, like, we're gonna
team,
like it's just okay. This week I'm on Ross St. Brown. I don't know, someone disrespecting him or whatever. He's gonna get a touchdown. Like, so
did you see as soon as he walked in with that teacher saying I hate Green Bay sucks or whatever it was, like you knew he was scoring a touchdown. You know.
That's
Yeah, they
great.
got
I
some
love it.
swag on them. I like it. No, I
Or
like
maybe
this
you're
call.
right.
Listen,
Maybe you're right.
especially this week where you do have quite a bit of wide receivers that you would normally have to depend on that are on bye and not playing.
Yeah, like
Jameson Williams
Dontavius
versus
Wicks.
Houston. I think it's a good call. What was that, Nacc?
Dontavius Wicks is on bye, so they have to
Dontavius
get
Wicks
someone
is
else
on
in.
bye. He still gets such a ridiculous target share week in, week out. It makes no sense to me.
Really? Does he really?
Yeah. He's like typically he's like the
2 weeks
number
ago, I
2.
think I saw 0 targets.
No, he's always involved in that offense.
Did he hurt you,
That
bro?
doesn't matter.
Yeah,
No, he
seriously.
didn't. I just wanted to like
When
everyone was like
Nacc keeps
raving about this guy.
receipts,
I was hearing it
man.
from so many people after
And
they listened to the pod, and like everyone was like, "Oh my god, this guy is gonna be it. He's the next guy. He's the top guy." You know what I said at the beginning of the year on
Oh,
who the
and
true
now we're
number
going on a
one
rant.
wide
Okay.
receiver was, and it was Romeo Dobbs. He's the number one wide receiver right now.
Romeo
Even
Dobbs?
after Reed, yeah, not fantasy related, but I'm telling you, go look at the
oh,
stats, man.
what's with this? So then, what matters if it's not?
He's the number one. He's
That's
the number one.
that's the Dontavian Wicks argument. He's the number one receiver, not with points, by getting targets and dropping them.
Oh well.
I can't wait for Nacc to lose a fantasy matchup because his opponent played Dontavian Wicks.
I hope they play him
And he
against
just
me.
happened to go off. Nacc, let's keep the spotlight on you. Who are your winners this week? Sorry,
Yeah,
who
so
are
I'm
the
gonna
guys?
start
Sorry,
off.
excuse me. Who are the guys you love this week? I'm all over the place.
Yeah, what's going on, Fab?
Ah,
Smarten up. I'm gonna go with a rookie this week. I'm gonna go with Odunze versus the Patriots. He's seeing more and more targets. 6 in week 8, 7 in week 9. So looks like he's gaining more and more chemistry with Caleb Williams. Now he topped 100 yards for the first time since week 3, but still has not found the end zone since week 3 as well. So with DJ Moore likely seeing a lot of Gonzalez on Sunday, I think that frees up Odunze. And the Patriots are giving up the 10th most points to wide receivers, so I think it's a great spot for Rome, and I believe he finally finds the end zone again in week 10.
you look at the wide receivers that went off against the Patriots, and it's all the secondary options. It's the Tank Dells, the Bryce
Gonzalez
Thomas
is
Jr., it's the
Gonzalez is
Stephon Diggs.
he's the real deal.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
think
no,
DJ
this
Moore
is a
gets
great
locked
call.
down and Odunze opens it up for him. Maybe for what's his face as well. No, who's the other guy? Who's the third wide receiver?
Keenan Allen.
Keenan Allen. Maybe it opens up stuff for him, but I think Rome is more primed, more. And you notice that he's looking for him more and more every week. So
Yeah.
I think this is the week he finally gets in the end zone.
Have we gotten to that point now where we have forgotten who Keenan Allen is so quickly into the season? My goodness.
Guys,
That money
if
should
they
have
don't know how to
been invested.
use their wide receivers, that's on them.
Yeah, no, 100%. Matt Eberflus is a fantastic coach. Sarcasm. Nacc, who's your second love for the week?
I'm gonna go with a guy who was out most of the year. Just came back last week, Mr. TJ Hockenson at Jacksonville. He saw 45% of the snaps in his first game back from a torn ACL, and he actually looked really good. Did not look out of place at all. He saw 4 targets and made 3 catches for 27 yards, so nothing crazy fantasy related. But I don't think it was expected to overproduce in his first game back. And he gets a Jaguars team in week 10, giving up the 10th most points to tight ends. So I feel like I'm looking for a lot more snaps on Sunday and also gets into the end zone for a score. The offense looked different with him out there. They got another weapon, and as you know, they get to continue try to keep up with Detroit in the NFC North. So I think it's great timing to get that weapon. And I don't know, there was a different feeling about them last week. And I think, look, he's just going to be on the field more and more. And I think Darnold's going to look for him as more of that safety blanket guy. I think he's going to make a lot of plays on third down.
Yep.
And then close in the red zone, he's definitely a threat, especially when they're double and triple teaming JJ.
No, adding another weapon like TJ Hockenson to that offense will never be a bad thing. And Jacksonville have been very generous when it comes to giving up fantasy points to not just tight ends, but every single position, quite frankly. No, I totally agree with this call. I think he's going to have a very good game. This might be the first game that we need him to have. That way he can give those weekly 10-1 numbers going forward for the rest of the season. If you stash TJ Hockenson from this point, good for you, because you got yourself potentially a tight end.
Really.
Yeah. We're going to continue with the tight end train. I got Mike Gesicki versus Baltimore on Thursday Night Football with T. Higgins out of the lineup. Most likely is another DNP on Monday, and I think today as well. All of the TDs and targets are going to Chase, to Jamar Chase, right? Right? Nope. Joe Burrow threw for 5 TDs last week, and not one but 2 went to Mike Gesicki. He's been the number 2 in that offense when T has been out. And in the 4 games without Higgins this year, he's averaging 15 fantasy points per game. Just in the last 2 weeks, he's averaging about a 20% target share. 2 straight games of 5 receptions, 70 receiving yards at least. Baltimore are not a very favorable matchup versus tight ends. I think they're giving up the 11th most fantasy points per game, but they are giving up a heck of a lot more to QBs and have surrendered double-digit fantasy points to tight ends in 3 of the last 4 games. Give me Gesicki as a tight end 1 this week. You can start him with supreme confidence.
Can't disagree there.
Yeah, I like him a lot. I think it's a great spot. And Thursday night for him to blow up. I'm looking forward to Thursday night games. It's going to be a nice matchup.
AFC North Showdown.
Yep. My second love for the week is Tyrone Tracy Jr. versus Carolina in good old London town. So there's not really much to say. It's a great matchup, and he's in a great spot to go absolutely nuclear. The last 4 weeks, Tyrone is RB12 on the season and went up against some pretty tough defenses too. We all got chewed out a few weeks ago when we expect him to struggle versus Pittsburgh D, and he had a very good game. So he's in full command of that backfield despite Singletary.
Yeah, it was me.
That was Rod, yeah. He's in full command of that backfield despite Singletary being back and healthy again. Carolina is giving up the most fantasy points to running backs, the most yards, the most touchdowns, the most everything. I expect Tyrone to get, honestly, at least 20 points. I'm calling it. I wouldn't be surprised if he hits a 30 burger. You start him and you...
Wait, let me just
Yep.
What a really bad London game.
It's a horrible
fans. They got a really terrible game.
Yep.
Kamara had 200 scrimmage yards, I believe, against Carolina.
Last week,
yeah.
Yes, he did. He had 100. I think he had 145 rushing.
Yeah, 145 rushing and
like 55 or 65 receiving.
There's no one to key in on except for him. How did they allow him to get that many yards?
And he actually didn't score a touchdown.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Taysom Hill did.
So Tyrone Tracy versus Carolina. If you have Tyrone Tracy Jr. in your lineups on your bench, you start him this week. Honestly, it's way too good to pass up of a matchup. Those are our loves, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna go 6-0 like we did last week. Now we're gonna move on to the hates. Roger, we're gonna go back to you for a second. Give me your 2 hates for week 10.
Great. I thought you were gonna say losers. I have as my first hate Calvin Ridley versus the Chargers. So the Chargers defense has been on a roll and have allowed 10 and 8 points in their past 2 games against, albeit, the Saints and Browns. And then they get the Titans, who should be getting our boy Will Levis back at QB, who is scheduled to be the starter again. If you look at these splits, with Levis at QB, Ridley is averaging 7.6 fantasy points per game in 5 games. With Rudolph at QB, Ridley is averaging 15 fantasy points per game in 3 games. Additionally, the Chargers are allowing the second fewest fantasy points per game to wide receivers. They're looking like a legit team on both sides of the ball, and they have a hefty ball control strategy, which I think opportunities will be scarce for Levis and the Titans offense. So I would definitely sit Calvin Ridley this week.
What's the logic for starting Levis over Rudolph?
They need to see what they have. They need to see what they have before they invest in the QB that they eventually will. And I think they know they're not going anywhere this year. You might as well just see what you have, maybe increase his trade value.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe showcase him, and that way he might become a little bit more of an interesting asset for people that want to trade for him. But
it also comes back down to you don't lose your job to injury, right? You're the starter. You don't lose to injury. It's a very taboo situation. The last person to really remember was Alex Smith when Mahomes kind of took over.
I mean, do we not forget about Tom Brady?
Yeah, but
was
that one was different because Bledsoe was gone, and actually Bledsoe came back in and started against Pittsburgh in the was it
because
the
Tom Brady was
AFC
out.
champion? Was it?
Because Brady was out.
Oh yes, Brady was out. Oh, you're right. He came back
Brady got
in,
injured. Yeah.
but he wasn't. I don't think he was injured. Bledsoe was injured a lot for a while during that year, but he just came in and Brady came in and just like destroyed. Like Rudolph's not destroying. It's not like they're winning games and
Exactly.
like
No,
it's I
fair,
think a
but
The
different
I mean,
offense has
situation.
been. I
the
actually
offense has been better.
we don't have time to look at it, but I would be curious to see what Tony Pollard's splits are with Levis
Yeah.
and Rudolph.
Yes. Fair.
Pollard had a
Fair.
really good
Fair.
game last week.
But already, just by looking at what your number one offensive weapon is doing in Calvin Ridley, what you expect him to do in the last two games with Mason Rudolph versus Will Levis, who can't even get him the ball.
Levis just makes really poor decisions.
But
That's his
Maybe because he's a
real
really poor
kryptonite.
quarterback.
yeah,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
think Fab, you alluded to it, and like zoning in on Ridley a bit more this year. Like he's off. Like he drops a lot of passes.
Yeah.
Like he makes dumb plays. Like he's not a
Yeah.
smart football player.
He's not the Calvin Ridley of old. We
No.
can get that, but he is still a good wide receiver for all accounts. I mean, we saw
come back.
when he was with Jacksonville last year and they were going through the practice and and you saw how much faster he was versus the other wide receivers doing the same drills. And it's like, hey, Calvin Ridley, like he's something for real. Like, I don't know. It boggles my mind a little bit, and I get the whole like you don't lose your job to injury, but like you should sometimes. Who's your second hate of the week, Raj?
Yeah, my second hate of the week pains me to say, but Caleb Williams versus the Patriots. And I would say there's nothing about the Patriots defense that screams world beaters in their current slate. It's just that the Bears vibes are really terrible right now. Caleb's gone 2 straight weeks without a touchdown. He's completed only 55% of his passes, if not less, and he's taken 9 sacks in the process. The offensive line isn't giving him a chance. He's hesitating to throw to open targets. And obviously, as we know, the play calling keeps abandoning the run way too early. The Patriots defense has been scrappy, ranked 15th in fantasy points allowed to QBs over the past 2 weeks. But to me, the Bears players are having players only meetings, asking for coaching accountability. And when it rains, it pours. And I would avoid Williams until the Bears and he show way more signs of life, as much as it pains me.
You know, they were going into their bye week on a high, on a 3-game winning streak, and Caleb was playing very well, especially against Carolina and Jacksonville, which you would kind of hope that would happen. They come off the bye and they got 2 losses in a row. He's put up duds of games so far. They look like a different team altogether.
Yeah, he's hit that rookie wall, as we've seen. I think the last couple weeks seems like the game is like a little too fast for him right now, and he's just got to slow it down. But again, that comes down to coaching, which they don't have. Um, I mean, look, easier said than done, but it just looks like everything's just moving way too quickly for him, and he's just hit some kind of a mid-season wall.
They've also faced tougher teams in the second half of the season than they have in the first half. That's also be like, but to your point, Nacc, you got to coach him through those games, right? You got to be able to help him succeed despite the fact he's having tough matchups. That a lot of that accountability has to go on the coaching staff
and make adjustments. They're not making the right adjustments. You know, the good coaches or great coaches make adjustments at halftime that help your players out. You know, in tough spots.
100%. Speaking of tough spots, who do you have on your hate column this week?
Yeah, so I'm going to go for another one on Thursday Night Football. It's going to be the aforementioned Chase Brown. Was a league winner for all of 12 hours before the Bengals acquired Khalil Herbert from the Bears. He's been very effective this season, and he just put up 27 points without Zach Moss last week. But that was versus a very, very bad Raiders team. In week 10, he plays a tough division opponent in the Baltimore Ravens on Thursday night, and they're giving up the 7th fewest points to running backs in 2024. I can easily see him struggle in a game where the Bengals may have to rely a lot on the pass.
Yeah, I don't disagree with this. Yeah, it's going to be a very tough sledding for Chase Brown.
The Ravens, they allow the 10th most passes to running backs. So I think rushing wise, I agree with you, Nacc. I could see him like kind of scamming his way to like 15, 16 points from
from
PPR.
passing.
From PPR, yeah.
Well, he
Yeah, I
averages
mean, we'll
about like
see.
3 to 2 receptions per game, so there could be some viability in that. I agree.
Yeah, I think seeing as the game is in Baltimore, Baltimore could easily go up quickly on a Bengals defense that's allowing, points in chunks. They don't look very, very good. So if Baltimore controls the game early, I just see the game script changing not in their favor, and which would cause Chase Brown to,
Yeah. It's going to be a shootout.
not be as effective.
That's why it's going to be a good game for Mike Gesicki.
Could be.
Yep. Nacc, who's your next hate?
Do you have him in any leagues?
Not yet.
This week? No.
Not yet. Waivers passed tonight. I've Tucker Craft on by.
That's the the Jim from The Office.
I'm putting all my fab on Gesicki.
Fab is putting all of his fab on Gesicki. Okay.
Yeah, the joke behind that is I have no more fab left. So my second hate this week, I'm probably gonna get a lot of flack for this one. I think it's gonna be the second time I put him on my hate list, and the first time he made me pay for it. But it's gonna be Jaden Daniels versus the Steelers. Mike Tomlin is 25-6 versus rookie QBs in his career as a head coach. So Daniels rebounded in week 9 versus the Giants after he saved his fantasy day in week 8 versus Chicago on that final Hail Mary play, or he would have finished with, I believe, something along the lines of 13 points. The Steelers are also very stingy to opposing QBs, giving up the third fewest points. And they've played very well versus Lamar Jackson, limiting him in, I don't think Lamar Jackson has a win against the Steelers. So he's a similar style to Daniels, the running style, the ones that take off and go. So I think they're going to have a good game plan for him. So I think Daniels struggles on Sunday.
The Steelers have only allowed one quarterback to hit 20 fantasy points so far this year. That's Dak Prescott in week 5. So
yeah, and that was an ugly game.
It was an ugly game, right? But he threw for 350
their
yards and 2 touchdowns.
Their defense played terrible that game. Dowdle went off.
But apart from that, though, like to your point, it is going to be a very tough game for Jaden Daniels, and you would expect him to struggle 100%.
Should I remove the ability to comment on YouTube
nope.
for this?
I want all the smoke, baby.
Okay.
I own it. Okay. But
That's
I
all you
want
should.
everyone listening right now. I want all my flowers if I'm right.
Nacc keeps his receipts, so you better keep yours.
You want all your flowers either way.
I like flowers.
Very good, Nacc. Very good. I agree. I think Jaden Daniels will struggle versus the Steelers. Yes. My two hates for this week: Jake Ferguson versus Philly. So coming off a 10-target game where he put up a very decent line, Jake and the morally destroyed Cowboys go up against a surging Philadelphia defense, who are 29th versus tight ends, which is very no bueno for Mr. Ferguson. Philly hasn't surrendered a passing tee to tight ends all season, and none of them have passed at least 73 yards. Jake will now be receiving passes from Cooper Rush, who was completing just barely 50% of its passes in the little action he saw this week. Ideally, I'd sit Jake this week, but with some big name tight ends on bye like Bowers and Njoku and Tucker Craft, you might not have many options. He's a big fade for me this week. I think he finishes outside the top 12 in tight ends.
Man, disappointing season for him, I find, this year.
Eh? Especially with the lack of options.
The Cowboys in general are just even before the Dak injury and all that stuff, right? Like there were pretty high hopes for at least that offense having some level of success, but I don't know, man. Like it's
he was great last year. Like
yeah,
I know the stats
really
don't show it, but like I owned him for a lot of the year, and like big catches, like really athletic guy. I was expecting like a close to 1,000-yard season this year.
Again, we all had high hopes for pretty much everyone on that offense, but has not materialized, and nor will it, unfortunately. My second hate of the week is Drake May at Chicago. So we're gonna double up on Chicago. We're gonna go double or nothing right now on QBs that are facing Chicago. Last week they stifled the likes of Kyler Murray and who just came off back-to-back games of 20 plus fantasy points. And I think they will do the same to Drake May. Drake has been very good, but he's also had the luxury of facing very soft QB defenses. Small sample size, but the splits so far are pretty legit. Houston in week 6, he got 24.5 fantasy points. Jacksonville, 22.8. The Jets, he was injured that game. He still got 11.5 fantasy points. And versus last week against Tennessee, 18.75. So he's been putting up some very solid numbers in the last 4 weeks. But I think this is easily his toughest matchup that Drake will face or has to face so far this season. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to bet against this rookie finishing as a top 20 quarterback. Chicago defense, they're very good. They're very, very good. They held Kyler Murray to under 5 points last week.
He's been running the ball really well, as shows in your graphic. Chicago Bears defense, 18 rushing yards allowed per game to QBs this year. Yeah,
he won't have as much flexibility or latitude in the pocket like you normally would have. Plus, it's not a matchup I'm looking forward to, quite frankly. I think he's really going to struggle. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Week 10 is in the books, guys. Week 10 love hates in the books. We're going to go for a perfect 12-0 again this week, like we always try to do. We're going to put our best foot forward and see what comes out of it. Ladies and gentlemen, there we have it. That's it for us. So thanks for sticking around with us for another episode of the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football Podcast. Once again, don't forget to like, share, subscribe to all of our social medias. Please, please, please download and listen to the episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Thank you for spending your time with us. I'm Fab, he's Raj, that's Nacc. If you haven't voted yet, go vote, and we are out. Cue the music. Thank you very much for all of our U.S. listeners out there. Hey.
Boston College this weekend, boys.
Boston College this weekend.
Who's ready?
We will be at Boston College versus Syracuse.
Who are we rooting for? Boston College? We got to root for the home team, right?
Yeah, obviously the home team.
Spiro wants to bring
Spiro wants to wear Syracuse, I think.
I was like, okay. Don't sit next to me, man.
I told him it was perfectly fine.
It's BC. It's Boston College, man. They're going to be perfectly fine. They're not going to be rowdy at all.
We see that now.
We're going to be the rowdy ones.
We better be.
I had to tell my mom that I'm going to Toronto. I had to lie and tell her I'm going to Toronto this week because if she found out I'm going to the U.S. after the election, she would have freaked out. My mom freaks out.
Really?
Yeah. She is so keyed in on the election. It's like not even funny.
Like every person of a certain age that's watching CNN every second of every day. Yes.
Yeah, it's too much.
Yes. Breaking news in a key state. Anyways, have a good night, everyone. Take care. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.